In prevention, we are all leaders. Whether you're leading a nationwide prevention initiative, facilitating statewide prevention community, you're a coalition coordinator, or a one-person shop, you are a prevention leader. How we show up and how we engage with others to create positive change takes all types of leadership. So sit back and enjoy these conversations with your fellow prevention leaders from across the globe who are sharing their lessons learned, best practices, and strategies for success. Hey everybody, this is Dave Closson from DJC Solutions, and you're listening to the Prevention Leaders Podcast, the show that brings you conversations with like-minded and driven prevention leaders from across the globe. Before we start the show, I want to tell you about my partners at HueLife and their upcoming Prevention Leaders Cohort 2023. The insights and wisdom packed into this learning journey stem from over 25 years of combined experience leading community coalitions in the substance use and misuse field. So I will put a link in the show notes. Definitely check it out. We would love to have you join us in the Prevention Leaders Cohort. Today, we're going to talk about the Prevention Leaders Cohort, one of the alumni from a past cohort. We're going to talk about prevention. We're going to talk about what it means to be a prevention leader. And we're going to talk about facilitation, building your facilitator's toolkit. We're going to have a wonderful conversation filled with stories from the field, real life examples, and some tips and tricks that you can take with you back to your communities to be a prevention leader. So without further ado, I am excited to welcome Dena to the podcast. Dena, welcome.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here today.
Before we jump into today's content, I'd love it if you would just take a moment to introduce yourself to our listeners.
I'm Dena Kemp with DECA. I'm the Southeast Kansas Community Support Specialist, and I had the opportunity to go through the HueLife leadership process, and it was amazing, absolutely phenomenal. I learned so much from it, met so many people, made memories, and I would encourage anyone who is interested in prevention to attend the training. I have been in prevention since 2012. I started in Oklahoma. Prior to that, I worked in domestic violence and sexual assault and substance use treatment for over 25 years. And I had the opportunity. At the age of 45, I went back to school to get my master's degree, and an opening came up in prevention. And I thought, whoa, to be on the front end, to help people so they don't end up in, inpatient services, in treatment, or in a domestic violence situation, or to help them become healthier individuals by giving them the skills and the techniques that they need, helping them with life skills. So many people don't have life skills. And so prevention is something that works with youth and to help them to develop those skills. And so I'm so excited about being on the front end. And prevention is really a lot more cost effective. So I'm excited to be at prevention.
I can just feel the passion radiating through the speakers, and you care. I'm curious. I want to unpack your role, community support specialist. What does that mean?
So as a community support specialist, I work in 19 counties in Southeast Kansas. When I started in 2018, there weren't very many contacts in Southeast Kansas. I had worked in substance use in Oklahoma. I was the opioid overdose and worked under 2 different grants prior to leaving there. So making contacts, starting things from scratch is one of my strengths. And so I just hit the ground running and started making contacts in Southeast Kansas. I started by emails, and then I realized face-to-face was what it was going to take. And so getting out there, meeting people right where they're at, learning about their communities, and letting them know that I wasn't going away, and developing those relationships. And it took about a year, in all honesty, for doing that, for people to reach back out and say, hey, do you have this resource? Can you tell me more about this? And so we provide technical assistance and training to communities and their coalitions for substance use prevention, including opioid prevention, as well as suicide prevention, problem gambling prevention, and gaming prevention. And we also raise awareness around mental health because that's so important. And we know they're all interconnected in some way or another. And so we go out there and I start by meeting with them. If they have a coalition, I learn what they're doing. If grant opportunities come along that they would qualify for and they're interested in, then I work with them. So we have our Kansas Department of Aging and Disability funding grants. And so I've had the opportunity to work with several coalitions over the time and just work along beside them, going through the core competencies of prevention and helping them understand the strategic prevention framework. And for those who are listening and may not have heard it, for the life of me, when I first started in Oklahoma, I had the hardest time remembering each pedal. And my field rep I had in Oklahoma said, just remember awesome cherry pie. And I never forgot that. So we start with our assessment and then the capacity. Then we go into planning and implementation, evaluation. And then all along the way, we're looking at culture competency and how we're going to sustain it. And so it is fun to take communities through that process and see their end results and then be able to evaluate it. What could we have done different? What are we doing right? Sure. Awesome cherry pie.
All right. I'm going to hit pause. I'm going to go have me a snack because that just makes me hungry.
That makes you hungry? It could be the awesome chocolate pie if you prefer chocolate.
Well, I like them both. Cherry pie with a little a la mode, but I digress. So providing training and technical assistance to 19 counties, both with current coalitions, and then do you help kind of foster or start up new coalitions if there isn't already one?
Absolutely. So even if there are current coalitions that may not be interested right now, I can offer assistance to them as well. And with the resources that we have available, DECA is amazing at creating toolkits and resources. So I love getting the resources into the hands of the community members. But I learned early on, if I took all my resources with me, it overwhelmed people. So I meet with them and then provide your resources. But we have toolkits on the community, the SAPS training, which I just shared about the strategic prevention framework process. We have toolkits on that. We have toolkits on suicide, opioid prevention. We have naloxone, which is an opioid overdose prevention effort that they can go into our website and request naloxone trainings as well as naloxone kits. We have doTERRA bags with their medications, and we also have some lock boxes available. So we have tons of resources that we can connect communities and coalitions, agencies to, so that they have resources to educate and raise awareness. We also have, trainers on our team that have been trained by the National Alliance for Drug Endangered Children. And so we have 5 trainers in the state of Kansas, and we had 3 or 4 that have been trained through DECA. So we can offer those trainings as well to let people know what is an Alliance for Drug Endangered Children. What are drug endangered children? Because some people don't realize the vastness of it. And so that's another opportunity that we have. We have Chrissy Mayer. She's our prevention chief. She's amazing at looking out there and seeing what needs are met and writing the grants and getting the resources to meet those needs. And so we have those as well. And we have an older adult medication safety training that we can offer. You know, this is where I learned in Oklahoma. It was really eye-opening when I started working in there, because as we get older, we lose our fingers, the way we feel, we lose our eyes, and pills fall on the floor. And that's how our kids and our animals get those medications, and we don't want that happening to them. So that's a training on safety, safe storage, and safe disposal as well.
I'm just going to big ol' second the line you said, DECA is awesome. Y'all are awesome. And from that lengthy list of what all you have going on. Not only do you have a lot going on, but y'all are good at what you do too. You are good at it. And I think from an outsider looking in, a lot of that success comes from your culture, your organizational culture, the heart that you all have, the passion that you all have, and how you approach your jobs, and that servant mindset.
I have learned firsthand, Dave, how amazing DECA is, from the board of directors to everyone that serves in DECA, no matter what capacity. Over this last year, I could not work for a better agency when I was going through my husband's illnesses, and the support was outstanding. So the support we give to families and communities is not only recognized there, but it's recognized internally. And it truly is a wonderful agency to work for.
Absolutely. I get just goosebumps. Just yes. Any chance I had to work or even just hang out with any of y'all from DECA, it's an absolutely yes. Count me in. I don't care what it is.
Well, we like hanging with you too.
Well, thank you. You shared a lot of wisdom when you were talking about your role, and I wanted to circle back to it a little bit for our listeners, in that when you first started in this role and you had to go out and build relationships, you shared the importance, like, hey, you got to go meet face to face and meet them where they're at. What other advice would you offer us for building relationships with communities when it comes to prevention?
I learned not too long ago, one of the things that we can do, and this is an area that I need to grow in too, is just reaching out to them and saying, hey, how are you doing? Are you okay? Actually, just inquiring how they're doing is a skill to help build those relationships, because they notice the people that do that. And then just being there, letting them know, hey, we've got this training coming up. I developed an email list of almost 100 people from Southeast Kansas, because I want to get the information in. And every so often you have to update it and just ask who would like to be taken off. But I'll tell you that I did that this weekend. I had more people request to be put on than taken off. So I thought that was really cool. And then also just calling and check on them, offering the resources, offering training. So if they're interested in knowing more about any of the programs or services that we offer, offering them a mini training on it, facilitating meetings with them. After going through the HueLife facilitation, I love facilitation training. I had the opportunity to facilitation with an agency, and it was so fun, because in the beginning when we got there, they had 19 goals and objectives they wanted to accomplish for the next year. And I said, okay. And we incorporated some fun, some of the tools and skills. And I love having a toolbox. I love having a toolbox of resources. And I received that toolbox of resources when I left and graduated. I have a toolbox of resources. And so I was able to utilize those resources, and we did a facilitation training. They had a great time, did a little bit of, personality characteristics stuff, and had them write their names where they thought they fit in. And it was so great, because the CEO was like, my name's not on every one of them. I feel like my name needs to be on every one of them. And as we went through the day, something would happen. He'd go, I can write my name up there now. By the end of the day, they had their 5 goals and objectives, 5, down to 5, and their objectives. Everything was included that they had in the 19 goals to start with. Some of them became objectives. By the end of the day, they had a working strategic plan that they were able to walk away from. And it was so fun. The funnest part was watching them get so excited and being satisfied with what they had accomplished that day and how it fell in place. And by the end of the day, the CEO had wrote his name on everything. He was excited. So, making it fun and realizing they accomplished some serious goals was just fantastic. And that's what we learn in the HueLife. And just helping them realize that they accomplished a lot in that amount of time, because before they were overwhelmed. They didn't know what to do with it next. And through the process, they created what to do next.
That is a beautiful story right there. It makes my heart just beaming with joy. And to me, that right there is a perfect example of what it means to be a prevention leader. You brought the process and incorporated fun to where you empowered them. You just said it. They went from a sense of feeling overwhelmed to organized with a strategic plan, with everybody signed up to help, committed to bringing this plan to life. And they were probably smiling at the end of the day too, after doing all this work.
They were smiling and laughing and giving each other a hard time. It was great.
Yeah. So tell me more, like, how would you define or describe what it means to be a prevention leader?
To be a prevention leader means to live by example, number one. If we're going to be sharing what prevention looks like, then we need to walk the talk, right? And being a prevention leader also is letting people know that everybody needs to be at the table, not just a few people. We have our 12 percenters. And I would say that a lot of our prevention efforts are youth focused or, substance use focused. And the people that are missing from the table most often are youth and those with lived experiences or those in recovery. And wow, that's a wealth of information and knowledge that's missing if they're not at the table. In prevention, we have a saying, nothing about us without us. And so those are really important to make sure that we get to the table. Making sure whatever processes we're using in prevention meet the criteria for evidence-based strategies, which just means it's been proven, right? It's been proven to make a difference. And there's research out there to back up that this does make a difference. And then also having that passion and demonstrating that excitement. I am actually a certified prevention professional in Kansas and was a certified prevention specialist in Oklahoma. And that process was quite the process to go through. You had to have a supervisor who signed off, and you also had to take the ICNRC test. And I'm grateful that I had that experience to go through that, because that gave me a guideline of what prevention's about. Plus, it holds me accountable, right? I mean, now currently it's not required, but I still believe it's so vital and important, because it helps people to feel like that they have accomplished something. And believe me, when you pass that prevention test, you have accomplished something. So, putting those different things in place, making sure you make the connections professionally. Like we have the opportunity to do the Alliances for Drug Endangered Children's training with you. And that opportunity helps us grow as prevention specialists to know what other resources are out there. There are so many agencies and organizations doing the same work. Communication, so that we can utilize the funding so much further than we could in isolation. And so making sure that we're collaborating, so that, if a community is collaborating with their Live Well Coalition, the Live Well Coalition has things that they have to accomplish, and the Substance Use Coalition has things they have to accomplish. So working together so that money can be spread out further to reach more individuals is so important. And exciting too, because you're helping each other accomplish goals.
Just radiates prevention is better together.
Yes, it is. I love that saying.
Oh, it is so true. So you unpacked what it means to be a prevention leader, and you shared some wonderful stories of how you are, in fact, a prevention leader. You mentioned the HueLife Prevention Leaders Cohort toolbox that you now have. Let's open up that toolbox. What are some of those, in air quotes for this audio only podcast, tools in your toolbox?
So the resources to be able to set up a strategic plan, right? The different guides, the layouts and the models, the depth of conversation, how people automatically think, the data and the emotive and visionary and the critical thinking and action. I love that conversation because you can use that anywhere because it's how people automatically think. That's what I learned. And so having that, there's a website they gave us that has tons of facilitation things that I haven't even begun to explore yet, but some of them look really fun. So being able to have those additional resources. And then Deka had a training with HueLife not that long ago, and they gave us a way to do a strategic plan or help them build their goals and objectives for the year in a shortened version. So now we have those tools. One of the things that we did was the Luminous Sparks, which I absolutely love that. And you're able, and they have the app for it. So I can pull up one of my team members and I can see, oh, they're really strong in this area. Oh, I need them in this area because I'm not very strong in this area. And so an example would be like Mike, my supervisor, and I, we have a lot of strengths that are similar, but there are areas he's strong. And then Chrissy, the prevention chief, her and I are totally opposite. But when you put our luminous together, we're a full lumina. And so, one of the things that I see happen sometimes is people who are alike have the tendency to work together alike when we need to make sure that we're working with people who are different than us so that we're catching the whole picture. And so that was something that was really eye-opening for me as well, that could be in this HueLife facilitation training. And I'm proud to say that Deka has hired HueLife to continue ongoing trainings. And I think that's so important. Because you have staff that change, and there's staff there that want to learn that. And from our last training that we went to, one of my new coworkers and I finished our facilitation process. We started in group because we went to do some facilitation surroundings in just the different models and that we were able to take away, how we were able to collaborate together and work as a team with the individuals that were on our same team, went through the process at the same time. I mean, I got to meet some great folks from Kentucky and I can't remember the other states, but I met some great individuals from there and I still have contact with them. So I have contacts in other states I would have never had before.
The tools that you've got, the story you shared for the strategic plan and how you were able to use those tools to be a prevention leader, it kind of makes sense in my mind as I like to tie it back to Simon Sinek's Golden Circle, in that often in prevention, we know our why we do what we do, because we care, we're passionate, we want to make this world a better place. And we may know what we need to do. Hey, you need to follow the strategic prevention framework and implement some evidence-based programs and practices. That's what you need to do. But when it comes to just what you were saying, bringing the diverse stakeholders, those 12 community sectors and more together, folks that are opposite of you, bringing them together to collaborate is where these tools come into play. It's the how, that missing link. How do you build capacity? How do you really implement in a way that is collaborative and gets everybody at the end of the day smiling and being excited that they got to write their name down next to things that need to get done?
So I think the part of that is really working with your contact person in the community that you develop and working with them because they know their community, right? Better than I would even begin to know their community. So it's me working with them in a small group to help them be able to know what that capacity building is, to look at this 12 core sectors and ask, why do they not have those at the table? And to also ask the hard question of what's the history here, right? Because we know that sometimes there's history and we have to work through that process and acknowledge the strength and everything, and then acknowledge these are some new steps that we might try, but making sure everybody feels heard and appreciated, whether or not they've been there for 20 years on that coalition and are very tied to how they've done that. So having those conversations to help break those walls down so that everybody feels an important part of it. And sometimes we want to run from hard conversations, right? And we're like, no, but in those hard conversations, builds that cohesiveness, collaboration. So an example with your alliances for drug and endangered children, I love this example. So, they have Stacy and they have Eric. And Stacy came from the social work, the social services field. Eric came from law enforcement. Very two real different outlooks on what they do and everyday functioning. But they were able to sit down and have those hard conversations. And as a result of that, the training and what they're doing for the alliances across the United States are absolutely phenomenal. It's the same kind of thing in our communities, being able to sit down and have those hard conversations and realizing that not everybody can be at the table at the same time. And as if you're doing data gathering, you might have the colleges, if you have colleges during that time, but they may not be able to come other parts, and recognizing, realizing those different things. I work with them on having welcome packets because one of the reasons that I really work with them on having welcome packets. So one of the things I didn't share was in Oklahoma, I was the community mobilizer. So I did what I'm asking coalitions to do. And that was a really good benefit to have that experience and training. So when I came to Kansas, I saw a billboard that said, Sumner County Drug and Alcohol Coalitions, get that. And I told my husband, I said, I'm going to be a part of that coalition. And I actually ended up working in Wellington. And I joined that coalition before I worked in prevention here. And the first thing they did when I walked in was they gave me a welcome packet. And in that welcome packet had the dates of all their meetings for the years, had their coalition members' names, emails, phone numbers, their officers' information, pictures from things they have done, and different committees that they had. So when I walked away that day, I knew, I want to be plugged in here. And it gave a sense of, I can belong here. Where a lot of times people don't have that. And if you have somebody new that comes into the meeting, they're kind of lost and they might go away and never come back. They're feeling lost. So really making sure that new members feel welcome.
Oh, that is a beautiful bit of wisdom, listeners. Welcome packet. Think onboarding for your coalition members or even your team members. And that's building that sense of belonging right out of the gate. I bet that just has a huge impact.
Definitely. It did for me, I know. So you're new to Kansas and that billboard, drew me in. So making sure that we get the media efforts out there, whatever that may look like for you and your community, making sure people know about your coalition and know about your efforts, because if they don't know about you, they can't join you.
Well, let's run with that sense of belonging. How would you describe your experience in the HueLife Prevention Leaders Cohort? What was the experience like?
So the experience was, at first, it was like, I'm not sure about this. There's a lot of new people on here, but my supervisor, Mike, was on there too. So I knew it'd be okay. But when I saw it come across my desk and there was a scholarship, I went to Mike and I said, I want this, because I loved what it described, being able to bring people together and us being able to practice it. And so in the beginning, I was a little cautious because I wasn't quite sure. And as the time went on, I looked forward to each time we could meet and get together. I have HueLife folks are just fabulous. I mean, they're always there to answer any questions that you may have as well. And the forms they gave us online so that we could go back, and we had those tools. I mean, I pulled up my folder a while ago when you were asking me questions. I thought, I need to go back in here and look at this. In the beginning, I felt like I don't know how I fit in, right? But at the end, I knew that I fit in. I knew that I had, I like to say, family. When I left there, I had made not only professional connections, but personal connections. I knew that I could reach out to the HueLife people anytime, and I felt excited. I was excited about everything that I had learned. And I am a visionary person though, and so I can see how things can happen. So if you're people who are detailed people, sometimes they can't see that vision. And sometimes as a visionary, it's hard to tell them how to get there because I'm not detailed, right? And so just demonstrating those through actions is the best way to show people. And I'm excited because, like I said, I think I have another facilitation coming up with coalitions. They're going to set their goals for this next year. And I'm super excited that I get to be the facilitator with that process. And just demonstrating that we can do this in coalition meetings. We just have to work with the coalition to figure out the time. And it's so exciting when they want you to be a part of that process. It's their process. They're facilitating it. And I felt by the end of it, I'll say the last session, everybody was sharing their stories. There wasn't a dry eye in that session because everybody shared from their heart, from their experiences, from the past, from their knowledge. And it was so empowering. And I was excited about what we had learned. And I'm still excited about what we've learned of facilitation.
Got a new extended prevention family now.
Exactly. Yeah.
And actually, you might not have heard the news yet because we're putting it out today, the day that we're recording this, that HueLife is launching a community, a special space just for the Prevention Leaders Cohort that all of the alumni you get access to stay connected with your extended prevention family and the other folks from the cohort to build that big family, that big community of prevention leaders. You'll be getting that email invite today.
That's awesome.
So you talked about how you knew right away, hey, Mike, this is something I want to do. But then when you started, said you were a little uncertain or a little hesitant. What would you say to somebody that is kind of on the fence right now, considering signing up for this journey, but is a little unsure? What would you tell them?
I would tell them, do not be afraid. I heard a really great definition years ago of fear, and it's false evidence appearing real. And that's exactly what that was. It was false evidence appearing real. Go join it. Don't miss out on it. Get the tools and skills and resources. Make those new connections. Build those new relationships. We're asking coalitions to build new relationships. We're asking communities to build new relationships. So we better be willing to build new relationships. And what better way than to make connections across the United States?
Ooh, goes right in line with live by example to lead by example.
Exactly.
Yeah. Oh, that was beautiful. Fear, false evidence appearing real. I like it. I like it. I've got, I'll say 2 more questions. We've been chatting for a while, and I know you've got a lot you got going on there, but I'm curious, who would you say is a good fit for the Prevention Leaders Cohort?
Anyone who wants to grow their skills in prevention, because the tools and skills that they will take away from it and the resources that they will take away can be applied to any coalition effort that they are utilizing, because it's that good a resource. So the answer to that is anyone who's interested in prevention should attend.
Awesome. I agree, but my perspective might be a little biased. But my last question, so you've already shared a ton of wisdom with us. I just want to ask one last question. So if you were to tell our listeners, if you're going to remember one thing from this episode, remember this, what would that be?
If you could remember one thing from this episode, remember prevention makes a difference in the lives of others. It saves lives so that they never have to go down the road of addiction. It helps our youth set up strengths and teaches us how to do that. So remember that prevention saves lives.
Beautiful. It has been an absolute delight to spend this time with you. I miss you all there at DECA. Tell everybody I said hi. Oh, hey, how can folks get connected, stay up to date with what y'all got going on?
they can actually go to DECA.org, and let me spell that out. It's DCCCA.org. And they can go to the prevention. There we have prevention services in Oklahoma and Kansas. So if you want to go to the Kansas one, you go on there and you can find the links, request naloxone trainings. You can also find tons of resources on there.
Marvelous. And folks, I will put links to the DECA website and all of their social media because they put out some great, informative, educational, and valuable content across all of the mainstream social media platforms.
Thank you so much, Dave, for allowing me to share the experiences today.
Absolutely. Hey, any excuse to jump in Zoom and have a little chat with you. I'm all for it. But give my best to the DECA crew and keep on doing the amazing work that you are doing. You're definitely having an impact, making this world a little bit better, a little bit brighter, a little bit happier.
Thank you, Dave.
That concludes this episode. Thanks for tuning in. Be sure to hit the subscribe button and share this episode with a friend before you leave. And we look forward to seeing you on social media because prevention is better together. Together, we are stronger.